start with the Bonsai Pipeline, one of the most powerful and most dangerous breaks in the world. Add 86 of the world's top bodyboard athletes representing 6 continents. Throw in a record high $20,000 cash purse, and you've got the Morey Boogie International Bodyboard Championships. In the next half hour, you'll see competitive bodyboarding at its finest as the best in the world challenge Mother Nature. Current and former world champions Mike Stewart and Ben Severson battle it out against a talented field of the world's best. Get set for bodyboarding at the pipe. Welcome back, everybody, to the Morey Boogie International Bodyboard Championship on the North Shore of Oahu. I'm Mike Chamberlain, and joining me is a man with 2 first names. Bob Thomas is our color commentator today. Bob, it really is an international field. Bodyboarders have come from all over the world.
Right, we have competitors from 11 different countries here this year, one of our biggest fields ever, including Japan, Portugal, Brazil, South Africa, and Australia. We're really making an interesting competition this year.
The Bonsai Pipeline is one of the most dangerous surf breaks in all of the world, not to mention here on the North Shore of Hawaii. And Bob, the question to you, what makes it so dangerous?
Well, the most dangerous thing about the Bonsai Pipeline and what makes it the great wave it is, it breaks in such shallow water. That causes the great tube rides we see. And the bottom itself is hazardous. We have a lot of big coral heads and caverns that can trap surfers down for up to 10 or 15 seconds, and it's very dangerous.
It's not uncommon to see some of the people come out of the water having scraped the bottom of the reef, and that is something you want to avoid here today. Let's talk about a couple of names that have become mainstays in the sport of bodyboarding. Mike Stewart and Ben Severson. Mike Stewart, a multi-world champion.
Right, Mike's won this event 5 times, and he's also the leading point winner on the PSAA Tour in California. He's really the class of the field today.
Well, the third member of our broadcast team today, his name is Jay Reel. Now, fortunately for us, he's with it. Unfortunately, he got knocked out in an earlier competition, or he'd be out in the water today. But let's check in with Jay Reel on the beach right now.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Well, Pipeline is going off its face, as we would say in the bodyboarding world. It's about in the 6 to 8 foot range, some 10-foot sets, a very large one pushing through right now. We're expecting an increase throughout the afternoon. Now back to you.
Thank you very much, Jay Reel. We'll be checking in with Jay throughout the contest for some insight and some interviews as the contest here progresses. Right now, let's take a look back at the quarterfinal action. It was hot and it was heavy at the Bonsai Pipeline. Quarterfinal number 1, it was a good one. It featured Mike Stewart, Nels Velocido of Waipahu, Hawaii, Michael Van Husting of South Africa, and Ross Hawk of Australia. Conditions were good. It was great. The bodyboarders were scored by 5 judges on a scale of 1 to 20. And Bob, what's the judging criteria all about?
The judges are looking for 3 things: size of wave, maneuvers performed, and length of ride. As we watch defending champion Mike Stewart on this wave, we get a good example of just what a good ride is. Here he pulls into a nice long tube, up into a El Rolo move, and winds into the shore break. He'll finish this wave off with a nice spinner move. And another one right there for a high-scoring wave.
Mike Stewart won the heat, but to it advanced to semi number 1. Nels Velocido, in his first appearance, pulled off some nice aerials like that one, but it wasn't enough to advance to the semifinals. Michael Van Husting, the South African, not able to maximize his opportunities on the big pipeline wave, but this guy, Ross Hawk of Australia, advanced into semi number 1 along with Mike Stewart. Let's set up quarterfinal number 2. Hauli Reeves, Doug Robson, Keith Sasaki, and Alexander De Pontes.
Robson here is on a nice shaped wave, but just can't pull off the big maneuver. Keith Sasaki is just having a little trouble here and not putting on a consistent performance at all. Hauli Reeves, well known for his aerial moves, tries a big rolo there and looks pretty spectacular. And Alexander De Pontes, the Brazilian, really shows how it's done. A fabulous move.
Oh, that's pretty to watch. De Pontes and Reeves advance to the semifinals. Quarterfinal number 3, Highland, Severson, Burkhart, and McKenzie.
Burkhart, in his first pro competition, came out charging with daring moves like these. McKenzie was very aggressive but couldn't tame the pipeline. And Highland got only 2 waves. He needs 3 and didn't advance. Severson, the former world champion, masters this heat and just continues to explode with maneuver after maneuver.
So Severson and Burkhardt advance to the semifinals. Quarterfinal number 4, McGee, Steele, Caldwell, and Mercado.
Cameron Steele's wave selection was a little lacking. Here he gets a pretty good wave, but not up to the size that the judges like. Seamus Mercado got a little too close to some of these waves, and they just ate him alive. Pat Caldwell, the veteran, shows how it's done with beautiful tube rides like this and finishing up with a nice string of maneuvers. Kainoa McGee, the new young lion on the circuit, just comes out of an unbelievably deep tube ride.
McGee and Caldwell advance to the semifinals. If you thought the quarters were good, wait till you see the semis. Stewart, Hawk, DePontes, and Reeves.
The first ride of the semifinal heat by Ross Hawk was fantastic. Deep tube ride with an aerial, but it was only good enough for 4th place. Ole Reeves managed a 3rd, even though he did well, but the caliber of competition in this semi was just too great. As usual, Mike Stewart, at home in his backyard, the Bonsai Pipeline, dominated this heat. Mike has a house just a few hundred yards from this spot and practices here almost every day. He knows it like the back of his hand, and it reflects in the way he rides these waves. Alexander DuPontes put on a high-performance exhibition of his own, and he was right on Mike's heels as the minutes wound down.
You don't suppose he beat Mike Stewart? Let's check in with Jay Reel.
21-year-old Alexandre de Pontes from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, just finished his semifinal heat. Alex, do you think your surfing in that heat was good enough to beat Mike Stewart and make it into the finals?
Yeah, I think so. I have to wait the result about the judges, but I catch real 3 good waves. I get good barrels, and the pipeline, I think, is it.
Well, the judges say he didn't surf well enough to beat Stewart, but he will join Stewart in the finals. Now, semifinal number 2. Severson, Burkhardt, McGee, and Caldwell, 4 hard hitters.
Ben Severson was in command right from the beginning and easily nailed down his berth in the finals. Caldwell looked sharp, but just couldn't get that key 3rd scoring wave. Kainoa McGee, on fire in the quarters, was heavily favored to advance to the finals, but was upset by newcomer Chris Burkhardt from Kauai.
And that may be the surprise of the contest so far. Jay Reel is with Chris Burkhardt.
19-year-old Chris Burkhardt from the island of Kauai. This is your first professional event out there with some of the world's top guys. How do you think you did amongst those guys?
I just tried my best and caught 3 solid waves, and hopefully if the Lord's with me, I'll pull through.
Well, the Lord was with him. Burkhardt and Severson will advance on to the finals. Well, Bob, it started out with about 100. It's down to the 4 finalists. Let's run down the names real quick. And at the top of the list is Mike Stewart. What would the finals be without him?
It wouldn't be the same. He's been here every year. This is his 5th year, going for a 6th title now. We expect big things.
And Ben Severson, the only other world champion in the field of 4 here today, and he'd love to put another world title under his belt.
He's going for a 2nd here, and it's been the Mike and Ben show all year. He's trying to win this one this year to prove he's the best.
And to prove we have an international field, Alexander de Pontes from Rio de Janeiro, he made it to the Final 4.
All right, he's known as Xanadu to his friends. He's a great rider in big waves, totally fearless, and if we got some big sets, he'll be the man to watch.
But the big story of the day is a young man named Chris Burkhardt. Here's a guy who was an amateur. This is his very first professional contest, and he makes it to the finals. What a story.
He surprised a lot of riders. He upset some big names today, and this is a big day for him.
Well, $6,000 will go to the eventual winner of this contest, so let's turn our attention to the finals. And there are the finalists in the water right now, and there are the wise men up above. Their future is in the hands of the judges. Here's the first wave, and that's Ben Severson on the right, Mike Stewart on the left. This may have to go to a rules committee. It looked as though Severson may have dropped in right in front of the defending world champion. I'm not sure about this. Bob, how'd you read it?
Well, the judges have to vote on it. 4 out of 6 judges will try to remember what happened, but it looked like Mike was a little too deep to make the wave and had a possibility of even going right on that peak.
Well, here we go again. That's Stewart in the black jersey and Severson in that lime green jersey. It will be ruled an interference because you simply cannot take off in front of a rider. That's simple, isn't it, Bob?
It's not always that simple. The judges still have the final say, and so we'll have to see in the final results how it comes out.
Meanwhile, Ben Severson will kick those fins and paddle his way back out to the lineup. Here's Chris Burkhardt, the young man we told you about, nowhere to go. He bails out at the bottom of the wide water.
Okay, and here's Alexander DuPontes on a beautiful wave, nice big hook up into a little tube, closes out on the inside, not a real high-scoring wave.
A lot of fans on hand here at the Bonsai Pipeline. It always draws a big crowd to watch this guy. Defending world champion Mike Stewart deep in the barrel this time, and a power roll at the top, finds another section of white tube and another power roll. Stewart just putting it all together, 3 great combinations on that wave alone, and you wonder why this guy defends his title year after year after year. Here's a replay.
Okay, let's take another look at this. It's a nice big wave. He uses his classic lay-down style. Way deep tube. Here he goes into that El Rolo move right there, up and over with the lip. Here's another angle from the beach, leading into a second El Rolo, right up and over. Beautiful angle right there, and you can really see how it's done at home.
Mike Stewart in his mid-20s says he wants to be a millionaire by the time he turns 30. Here comes Ben Severson again, another Hawaiian, a former world champion himself. Look at the board speed he's got up, crucial part of the wave, disappears. There's the spit, and out comes Severson. A nice little cutback, whitewater chasing him now, goes into a belly spin and runs out of wave, but he had to score some high points on that one for the former world champion Ben Severson.
Ben really did get a great wave, and here he is pulling up into that Emerald Cavern, getting a real deep tube ride, one of the best of the day we've seen so far. And here's that famous bonsai spit just blowing him out, and that really stings the back of your neck when it hits you.
Well, they tell me you can leave marks on your back as we watch the teenager Chris Burkhardt duck under the lip of this smaller wave of the pipeline, disappears, and he's not going to come out of that one. Chris Burkhardt gets lost in the soup or the whitewater. Mike Stewart says all systems are go at the 8th annual Morey Boogie Bodyboard Championships. We'll be back. Mike Chamberlain and Bob Thomas welcoming you back to the most famous break in the world, the Bonsai Pipeline and the 8th annual Morey Boogie Bodyboard Championships. Let's set up the finalists again. In the black is Mike Stewart, in the pink Alexander De Pontes, in the green Ben Severson, in the white Chris Burkhardt. And here's the world champion at it again, Bob.
Mike Stewart, another deep barrel spit out by that pipeline spit. A nice reverse cutback belly spin, setting up for another string of maneuvers on the inside. That's what Mike does best. Another reverse belly spin cutback right up into the beach.
Well, you know, the judges are looking for long rides and radical maneuvers, and in this case, Mike Stewart dropped into that green wall. Look at it pile up above him, a good 10-foot wave as he slides under the whitewater, or the tube as they call it in bodyboarding, and then the camera goes underwater. From another angle, you can see the velocity, the board speed that they get up on these bodyboards, and he eventually will come out the other end. He was spit out of that wave by the spray.
There's another great wave setting up. Looks like Alexander De Pontes stalling on the bottom and turning up into a nice little barrel, not quite as deep as Mike's. Another reversed cutback spinner. You can see it wasn't quite as smooth as Mike's couple that he just pulled off, but a pretty good scoring wave for Alex.
And the media on hand here today from all over the world. And another look back at Alexander De Pontes. Again, fine trim on the board. He's high on the wave. That's where you're going to get your acceleration. Get those fins out of the water at one point because they become a drag if you don't.
Up and riding on the outside is Ben Severson. A nice late drop and pulling into a deep barrel. Let's see if he makes it out of here. He does. What a fantastic deep tube ride. Another one, a double tube. Just can't put a maneuver together, but that's what they like at the pipeline. Tube rides and tube rides.
They love it. They cheer it. And let's take a look again. Severson gets buried way deep in this tube. We lose him for about 3 to 5 seconds, and I never thought he would come out of it. All of a sudden, that blonde hair peeked out the other side. He leans up on the board to get the speed up one more time. Found another section in front of him. This time, he's going to have to call it quits.
Outside is Chris Burkhardt taking off on a smaller wave. Pulls up into a nice little tube. Not a high-scoring wave, but it's the best he can do at this time. A couple nice reverse cutbacks there. And another off-the-lip floater. Didn't quite pull it off.
And Alexander De Pontes, who's been very consistent. I know, a big power roll right at the top. He'll lean into the lefty again before the whitewater totally engulfs him. But boy, he got off a big maneuver at the lip of that wave. Bob, look at this again.
Yeah, he really gets his speed going. Launches himself right up to the lip and does a little flip over there. The wave kind of closed out, but he got the most he could out of that situation.
Talk about busting a move. Here's Mike Stewart at the top. Another power roll, lands right on his belly. And now he's fighting off the whitewater, dragging in another power roll. Finally, the wave closes out on him. This guy is unbelievably consistent. Always at the top of his game. He's always right at the right place at the right time. And he's Mr. Right.
And Mike Stewart right here, even on a giant wave, can pull off those difficult El Rolo type maneuvers. He's setting up for another one right here. launching himself right up toward the top of the lip and up and over, makes a perfect landing, ready to set up for a kick out.
Mike Stewart, mistake-free bodyboarding here in Hawaii. The wintertime on the North Shore not only means big waves, but also heavy rains. So heavy that the WAMEA river mouth fills till it overflows or threatens to wash out the Cam Highway. When this happens, a special spot comes to life as the water is drained off into Waimea Bay. It starts first as merely a rideable stationary wave. Then it becomes a rippable wave, and then just plain radical as gravity goes to work. The river mouth isn't drained very often, but when it is, it might be the closest thing to a bodyboarder's dream, an endless wave. Well, I've heard of an endless summer, but never an endless wave. We are back to the finals now at the 8th annual Morey Boogie Bodyboard Championship. The judges up above looking down on the pipeline. And Bob, here comes former world champion Ben Severson.
Ben pulls into a great barrel here, really deep, but it doesn't look like he's going to come out. I've seen his board just pop through. Too bad. It would have been a high-scoring wave for Ben.
Well, these waves have traveled all the way from Japan to get here as the world champion picks off another one, disappears, a lot of whitewater spray coming out of it, and right in the middle of it performed a power roll. So not only did he have to deal with the spray hitting in the back, but he had the presence of mind to actually turn it into a radical maneuver. That's what the judges are looking for exactly. Here it is again.
Mike Stewart here on a really big wave, pulls into a nice tube, starts to look for his launch point and really gets a nice high air rollo. You just look at the height he gets of this. He's about 3 or 4 feet above the back of the wave, pulls it off, paddles back out.
I tell you, Mike Stewart takes every move to the limit. Here's Chris Burkhart, the teenager from Hawaii, punches through the back of this smaller pipeline wave, trying to lean into it, trying to make something happen. He's kicking those fins, trying to get to the open face of the wave right now, and it's not going to happen.
Alexander Duplantis on a nice medium-sized wave, disappears there for a second, tries to set up and get another maneuver, stalls, cuts back, no tube in sight, kicks out.
Well, he almost had it happen for a second there as it kicked up again. It got a double jump on the reef here. As we look at Chris Burkhart from Hawaii, look at him punch through the back of this one, and then he disappears. That white jersey totally gone. He looks up at the whitewater.
Alexander here, trying to stall and get back in the tube. He does just for a second, but the wave just doesn't cooperate.
Here's Ben Severson. Nice trim on the board this time, leaning into a good-looking lefty. And there's another power roll at the top of the whitewater, cut back into a belly spin. They say that the 90s will be the decade of multiple tight combinations, and we're sure seeing that here today at the Bonsai Pipeline in Hawaii.
The true test of a champion is how well he can put combinations of moves together. Here Ben stalls for a nice tube, really gets deep, but he's not giving up there. He wants more, and he starts to set up for his maneuvers even while he's in the tube. Right there into a nice El Rolo, a good landing, and he says that's not enough.
We are down to the final moments of the bodyboard final. Look at Stewart go right up vertically through the back of the lip. He can't believe he pulled it off. He's got a smile on his face.
That should nail it down for Stewart. What a fantastic ride to finish this heat up.
Well, Bob, the bell in the background signifies the end of the finals, the 30-minute final, and I don't know, for my money, for what it's worth, Mike Stewart in the right place at the right time.
As every year for the past 5 years, Mike has been there, and I think he's going to be very hard to beat in this heat. He had the biggest waves, the biggest maneuvers. On every count, he's on top.
Well, it looks like things are coming up sixes for Mike Stewart. He's looking for his 6th title here at the pipeline, and the winner walks away with $6,000. Who will it be? We'll be back with the winner here at the Bonsai Pipeline after this. Welcome back to the North Shore of Oahu and the Bonsai Pipeline for the Morey Boogie International Bodyboarding Championships, and congratulations to Mike Stewart. He walks away with the big money today. His savings account will grow by $6,000, and not a bad afternoon for Ben Severson in second place and a check for $3,500. And I think we should also send some congratulations to Kainoa McGee, Bob. He actually scored what the judges thought here today to be the best wave of the contest.
Even though Kainoa didn't make it to the finals, he had one of the best waves of the day, a big 12-foot monster into the green room for one of the longest and biggest tubes of the day. You see him get spit out right here. He doesn't quit there. He sets up for another hot maneuver. Coming up right now, slashing up into the lip. A nice El Rolo with a good landing. Congratulations to Kainoa McGee.
Well, congratulations to Mike Stewart. He is the winner of the contest. And Mike, you made history here today. Not so much that you won the contest. You've done that 6 times now. But you win a check for $6,000, the biggest payday in the history of your sport. And your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's great that the biggest paycheck goes to a wave like Pipeline. I really think it's appropriate. This is probably the best wave in the world for bodyboarding. And I think it's great that the biggest paycheck goes to an event here.
Well, it certainly does well with you. And, we kidded during the show that you said you wanted to be a millionaire by the time you hit 30. You're on your way.
Yeah, a couple zeros short, but I don't know. Working on it.
Okay, you got time on your side, and I got the feeling you're going to see a lot of more paychecks before you hang it all up. But for Mike Stewart, in fact, for Jay Reel and Bob Thomas, I'm Mike Chamberlain. Thanks for being here and watching the Morey Boogie International Bodyboard Championship. We'll see you same time next year from the North Shore of